We both grew up in Los Angeles.
Well, you grew up in the Valley. I grew up in Los Angeles.
In today's episode of LawFlip, Ben Maddahi shares the secrets to his chart-topping success.
And I heard it, and my jaw dropped to the ground. I said, this is incredible. And only like 3 times, I think I've barged into Mike Karen, my boss's office, and I said, you need to stop what you're doing. I don't care who you're meeting with. You need to just come right now and listen to this. And he heard it, and he was like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. It could be, so I heard you like the wild ones, and then it became, hey, I heard you like the wild ones. And then we kind of kept spitballing lyrics back and forth between the two of us. And then also, it got nominated for a Grammy. So I can always say I co-wrote a Grammy-nominated song.
That's so cool.
Far away, far away. To be honest with you, I went through beats with her, David's beats, and I skipped over the beat that was the actual beat for Titanium. She's like, go back to it. And she wrote to that beat.
I love you more. Let's play the blame game for sure.
How did you put this together?
Long story short, we're pushing on. They're announcing the album, and like I have no paperwork. I have not heard anything. I don't know what's going on. And then I swear to God, it's like 3 days till it's supposed to premiere. Urgent call for the files. And it's like, send the files. Yeah, he's in the studio. He's in Hawaii. He needs to work on it right now. Blah, 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 blah. By golly, that Friday came by and I watched MTV and that song was in the, like there's a video to the song. It was unreal.
Okay, so let's go to Deal of the Week. If you had these fruit stands all over the world, no more wars. It would be peace everywhere.
An app called Calendly. You can just send people a link and like, here are my available times. And you can just let people pick from your available times.
It's great.
LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
Okay, welcome to LawFlip. It's an unfiltered conversation about law, life, music, and so much more. I'm Benjy Smith. So our guest today, he has a Wikipedia page. Do I need to say anything else? I don't think so. He's a music executive. He's currently senior vice president of A&R at Columbia Records and president of Unrestricted. His credits include songs that I sing to in my car all the time, such as See You Again, the Wiz Khalifa song with Charlie Puth, Titanium by David Guetta and Sia, Stay by Zedd and Alessia Cara, Blame Game by Kanye West featuring John Legend. He's also part of a current #2 song on Spotify with Jason Derulo and many, many more. Excited to welcome the powerful Ben Maddahi. Thank you so much for being with us, Ben. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, brother. And I'm not powerful, but I appreciate the
Okay, so to the
up.
listeners, please share this episode with people who you think will find it helpful. Let's flip the game upside down. So first, we got a new number, 1-833-LawFlip. If you have any legal questions whatsoever, hit us up, 1-833-LawFlip. So Ben, we both grew up in Los Angeles.
Well, you grew up in the Valley. I grew up in Los Angeles. But yeah.
So let's start this off.
It's just guns out. It's guns out from the get-go.
So we met at USC. You very quickly let me know you didn't appreciate that I was from the Valley, and I termed it, like, you contracted what are called Valergies. You're from the city. I'm from the Valley. How did you contract Valergies, and why is it so important for you?
Look, man, I actually love a lot of people from the Valley. My brother-in-law's from the Valley. But it's a far drive. It's hot. And not as much action as the city.
Yeah, and we're very practical. We're into the, lesser traffic, better cost of living,
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, take us through briefly just like your career. You went to USC. Take us through like your overview of your musical career.
Sure. Born and raised in LA. I jokingly say I started playing piano at age 5 and I stopped playing piano at age 6 because I sucked. I started playing drums at age 7. I was in the LA Junior Philharmonic. I was in school, band, orchestra. By the time I got to 14, I got really bored because in the LA Junior Philharmonic, if you're like the 5th best drummer in LA, like you're playing the triangle once every 2 hours and you get in trouble for talking in the back more than you actually do anything, right?
Sure.
So I left at a certain point to DJ, and to do more current contemporary stuff. And that's where I found myself playing music that I was listening to in the car. I was listening to a lot of Power 106, a lot of 92.3 The Beat, a lot of Kiss FM growing up in LA, which are the more hip hop and rhythm and pop leaning stations. And I started DJing, and that was probably the best thing for me, because I learned how to be an entrepreneur. I learned how to select music. I learned how to perform in front of people. I learned how to reinvest in myself, promote myself. I learned arrangement of music. So all like in studio, out of studio, kind of skill sets I picked up from DJing, which I thought was really important. After that, I went to USC, where I met Benjy. I graduated with a degree in political science. I was intending on being an attorney, but actually didn't end up going down that path, because I got an internship at Atlantic Records after I graduated. I have major in political science, minor in music industry from SC. At 22, I started interning at Atlantic for Mike Karen and Aaron Bayshuk, who's the now head of Warner Brothers Records, or Warner Records. And Mike Karen, who's the head of the APG label and probably the biggest A&R figure in the Warner system. And I was between Atlantic and APG for 9 years. I A&R'd David Guetta, I A&R'd Flo Rida. I signed Charlie Puth with my brother-in-law Miles Beard. Helped put together a lot of hits for the Warner Music Group labels, and put together hits for stuff not on Warner, like stuff with Kanye, stuff with Justin Bieber, stuff with Pitbull, stuff with Enrique Iglesias, all not in Warner Music Group. And then I left in 2015 because I wanted to have a different challenge and have my own company. I left to go to a company called Songs Music Publishing with a guy by the name of Ron Perry, who's incredible. Ron had signed The Weeknd and Diplo and Lorde and Chromeo and a bunch of super cool acts to publishing, so I went to go work with him. And then shortly after I got there, he sold the company. So I followed him to Columbia Records, where I'm now senior vice president, and Ron is CEO.
Amazing. Let's run through some of your hits. So, See You Again, Wiz Khalifa featuring the Charlie Puth.
When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through.
You helped produce this song. It's not only an incredible song, it's an international smash hit. I think it's over 4 billion views. That's a lot of people, Ben. What was the process, and did you have any idea how big it would be? And then, like, to have it eventually be the song that gets sung at Kobe Bryant's memorial, where, I mean, the entire world was watching. How did that all feel?
I mean, it felt incredible. It happened in a couple of parts. Firstly, it's very funny. It wasn't meant to happen. It was the company that I was working for, APG, and Atlantic, had already done the Fast and Furious 6 soundtrack, which I had no part in. They asked and said, "Can you please help? We need a single for the soundtrack." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure I'm the right guy, but what is it that you're looking for?" And they said, "We need to find a song that sounds up the alley of like I'm Coming Home, Diddy and Skylar Grey. We need a song that kind of is like a Airplanes, B.O.B. and Haley from Paramore.
Nostalgic. Like nostalgic
nostalgic,
type.
Exactly. Pop, hook, rap verses, etc. We published at the time, and I also managed the producer. I still manage him after a decade, Frank E., who did the song. At the time, it was just kind of serendipitous because we were looking at Charlie Puth as a songwriter. And I said, all right, let's get to work. It was like the second session I put together for that song, which was nuts because apparently Universal Pictures, they had put the brief together. Not apparently, I know. They put the brief together of this is going to be the song for the Paul Walker montage. And they need a song to commemorate Paul Walker. So we did the session, and I stepped out of the room. I just gave them a brief direction. I let the guys write. They had both shared, Charlie and Frankie had shared experience of the loss of a friend, a very close friend within the past year. I went down the hall 2 hours later. They said, "Come check this out. You might want to hear this." And I heard it, and my jaw dropped to the ground. I said, "This is incredible." And only like 3 times I think I've barged into Mike Karen, my boss's office, and I said, "You need to stop what you're doing. I don't care who you're meeting with. You need to just come right now and listen to this." So I pulled him out of his office. I said, "It's just urgent." And he heard it, and he was like, "Whoa, dude, this is crazy."
Wow.
So needless to say, we got the song for the film, which is weird because the studio actually didn't initially gravitate toward it. They didn't say like, oh, this is the one. They're like, this is really good. You should get some more. And I was kind of like, if you don't if you don't hear that this is the one, then I told Mike, like, are they crazy? Like, this is incredible. I think that sometimes people just need to hear it a couple of times or whatever. Obviously, it ended up working out for everyone. We organized. Mike was in charge of liaising with the studio and finding the featured artist on it. So he pulled. I think it was the studio's first choice was Eminem. I think the second choice was Macklemore. I think they were both either too expensive or not interested or whatever. Came around to Wiz, which is really funny because earlier in the year they asked me, do you have any songs for Wiz Khalifa? I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever deliver a song for Wiz Khalifa. But ended up coming back around to being a Wiz Khalifa song with Charlie featured. I ended up working out great for everyone because we got to break an artist off of it. We signed Charlie to the label.
Charlie's unreal.
Yeah, Charlie's one of the biggest talents I've ever encountered in my life. My brother-in-law Miles, who's a savant in his own right, had a huge part in that. I mean,
shout out to Miles.
Miles put Charlie on my radar. I mean, Miles is incredible and really good at what he does. He also signed Alec Benjamin. He signed Pink Sweats to publishing. He's a really good A&R guy.
Yeah, no, he was actually supposed to be on, but I had you on instead because he wasn't available.
Seniority. Okay. No, because I'm more important.
Okay, so Wild One, Flo Rida with Sia. So I remember like a New Year's Eve, I was at your house at a great party, and it was just such a cool moment when you played that song at this party and it came on, and it's just an infectious, amazing, fun song. How'd this one come about?
This was an interesting one. We were A&Ring Flo Rida's album and David Guetta's album simultaneously. And we had gotten Sia in previously, who wrote Titanium. And, Titanium, obviously, when we wrote it, this woman's a freaking genius. She's a mega talent as a writer and as a vocalist. Then, day one was Titanium. Like, I want to say, like, day 3 in the studio with Sia was Wild Ones. But we said, hey, do you want to write for Flo Rida? And she's like, who's Flo Rida? I'm like, well, he's a pop rapper. He does like raps to dance music mostly, mostly club records. She's like, I mean, I have no idea like what his deal is, but I'll try. So what ended up happening was, I said, look, I'll give you guidance. He likes bottles and clubs and private jets and champagne and so forth. And she sang me an idea that said, so I heard you like the Crazy Girls. She said, I've been saving this idea for a Katy Perry called So I Heard You Like the Crazy Girls. And then I said, that's good. But then, if it's girls, it might only appeal to one, segment of society. Why don't we kind of make it, unisex? And it could be, so I heard you like the Wild Ones. And then it became, hey, I heard you like the Wild Ones. And we kind of kept spitballing lyrics back and forth between the two of us.
I feel like I'm in the room with you guys. This is very well described, Ben.
Oh, thanks. I think that anytime we have a hit record, I go to document it in my brain because I want to make sure I remember exactly how it happened, probably for purposes like this. And we just went back and forth for like 2 or 3 hours. And then again, it was one of those, Flo Rida was like freaking out about what his next single was going to be because he had just put out a Good Feeling. And it was starting to do well, but it hadn't proven itself yet. And we were like, what are we going to follow this up with? And then we played that and Flo fell on the ground. We were like, we nailed it. Sia was kind enough to give me a writing credit and a little bit of publishing on the song. So
that's incredible. Well, the change
I make
to
like
Wild Ones
I make like
huge.
$4,000 a year. But the more cool part about that, honestly, was it became kind of like a bar mitzvah and wedding anthem. So I hear it a lot when I go to bar mitzvahs and weddings. And then also it got nominated for a Grammy. So I can always say I wrote a Grammy-nominated song or co-wrote a Grammy-nominated song, which I think is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it didn't win, but...
Yeah, okay, so Sia, another one. So Titanium by David Guetta and Sia.
I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Far away, ricochet. You take
Someone had suggested that we bring in Sia to work on David Guetta's album, but we were making a very rap and R&B leaning album. So there's a lot of Lil Wayne and Chris Brown and like Akon and people like that involved. And I was like, who's Sia? I like looked into her and I was like, this is not right. Because all the Sia like was from 07. She was the vocalist from 07, down-tempo, electronic, chill group. And I'm like, I like 07, but it doesn't make sense for Guetta's album. And so literally I kept it at the bottom of my to-do list, I want to say for 3 months. I swear to God. And then I'm like, you know what? I got to finish everything on my to-do list. And we set up the session and we did the session. And I was like, whatever, who knows what the hell is going to come from this. I stepped out of the room. To be honest with you, I went through beats with her, David's beats, because David was in China at the time. I went through David's beats with her. And I skipped over the beat that was the actual beat for Titanium. She's like, go back to it. And she wrote to that beat. And the song was called Bulletproof in the beginning. And that was one of those times I walked into Mike Caron's office. I said, listen, man, I don't know what the hell this is. I just know it's special.
That's
and
amazing.
Then it ended up being Titanium. Yeah, super
You
crazy.
definitely have an
Day
ear.
one in the studio with Sia, which is nuts, right? Like day one.
So two other superstars, Kanye West, John Legend, did a great song, Blame Game. Let's hear it, Ariane.
Game, I love you more. Let's play the blame game for sure. Things used to be.
So actually, I just looked it up. It's really like a 7-minute song with like Chris Rock. It's Chris Rock is on it, right?
That's the best part. I mean,
Yeah. So how did you put this together?
In this case, I sent the beat to Kid Cudi's A&R, who's a friend of mine by the name of Nigel Mack. He was working at Republic Records at the time, and we had a rapport, and I was just sending him beats for Kid Cudi. And he's like, Cudi loves this. I'm like, cool. And then he called me a couple weeks later, and he's like, so it's not going to be a Cudi song. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I thought he was going to try to pawn it off on one of his like lesser artists. He's like, it's actually going to be a Kanye song now. I'm like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, it's going to be Kanye. And like, it became this whole 9-month saga of like, yeah, right, put me in touch with Kanye's people, let me talk to them. They said it was going to be a Kanye song. Okay, cool, send the paperwork. 2 months go by, no paperwork, no updates. Guys, what's going on? We want to give the beat to someone else. Nope, save it, Kanye wants it. Like, you haven't asked for files, you haven't sent paperwork, you haven't negotiated anything, what's going on? You know what I mean? Another month goes by, John Legend wants to be on the chorus now. I'm like, okay, cool. And then like, again, can I hear what the chorus is supposed to be? No. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so like, I thought they were bullshitting me the whole time, but I didn't understand why I couldn't hear it or whatever. Long story short, we're pushing, they're announcing the album, and like, I have no paperwork. I have not heard anything. I don't know what's going on, So I'm like, hey guys, I heard you guys are announcing the album and you're premiering the entire Dark Twisted Fantasy album on MTV with music videos to accompany every song on the album. I haven't heard this. My client hasn't heard this. You don't have the files to this song,
Unreal.
And then I swear to God, it's like 3 days till it's supposed to premiere on MTV, right? Urgent call for the files.
Oh man.
And it's like, send the files. Yeah, he's in the studio. He's in Hawaii. He needs to work on it right now. Blah, 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 blah. And then they like replayed some they rearranged some whatever. By golly, that Friday came by and I watched MTV and that song was in there's a video to the song. It was unreal.
Okay, so 3 times Chris Brown. Okay, so Chris Brown, he was super controversial. Somehow he's figured out a way to make himself mainstream. He's an incredible hit maker, like hit after hit. How do you deal with these crazy controversial artists?
You have to respect freedom. You know what I mean? And the freedom to say whatever you want, the freedom to act however you want, and the freedom of the public to judge you however they want to judge you, and to be subject to the court of popular opinion. And we've worked with a ton of controversial artists, I think if someone, as it pertains to myself, like, if someone is doing something super immoral, I'm going to distance myself from the artist. You know, I have a very big problem, like, kind of coming across, like, 18-year-old gangster rappers on YouTube who bring, like, 9-year-olds and 8-year-olds into the video carrying guns and so forth and so on, right?
Okay, so we know that music, you know, a musician's life can get changed overnight, an executive's life can get changed overnight. Like our friend Jason Evgen, he was always talented. I've known him since we were like 3 years old. I used to be at his band practice, like starting when we were like 10 years old. He grinded. One of the most talented people from most talented families, but it took him a long ass time to make it. And then when he made it, he's like, you know, he's as big as it gets. He writes for Madonna and everybody. He's huge.
Maroon 5.
But what do you, Maroon 5, everybody. But what do you tell as like a very rational person that has a family and you care about people a lot? You're not in anything to make a quick buck. Like, do you have a hard time talking to young kids who are taking huge risk in putting all of their time, effort into, let's say, music?
Everybody will get an opportunity, even if they're not that talented. As long as they want to work really, 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 really hard, sometimes the keeping yourself in the game long enough will align with opportunity or fortune or luck or just whatever the hell you want, fate. Like, as long as you keep yourself in the game, something will line up. It's a question of, can you survive on ramen noodles for 15 years if you're not that talented and you're not a big hustler? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And I know some people that have come from wealthy families and kind of, you know, were like hobbyist musician songwriters, or they just didn't have the pressure to provide for a big family or whatever it is. And they were able to stick in the game for a really, really long time until they got really big hits.
Right.
And that's awesome. You know, like everyone has their own path in. Some people are the most talented. Some people are the hardest working and best networking. Everyone's different, man. You know,
that's a good point. So,
but if they suck, I'll tell them, I'll give them a plan to kind of like, you know, give it. They'll filter themselves out. Anyone who wants to be at the top will get to the top. Period. Right. It's like it's very much if you want it. And I know a lot of people who are not that talented, who are extremely successful, based off of their hunger to move forward, right, and to succeed. So it's almost like, do they have the level of passion and the hunger to kind of do what it takes? Yeah.
So music means so much to me. It helps me in tough times, helps me celebrate. Why is it so important to you? What does it do for you aside from the business, just as a person?
Music was a form of escape and healing for me in my teenage years, which I think it was for most people. And I think that, you know, my dad is a healer. My dad is a nuclear cardiologist. He's more than a healer, but I guess if you have to boil down the nature of the type of work that he does, he's a healer. He's a doctor. And I knew that I wasn't going to be as academic as he was, but I wanted to have the same effect on people, on bringing positivity to the world. Yeah. And I figured the way to bring it to the masses the most quickly, doing something I love every day, was being in the music business. So it was a very simple answer for me and my dad. In college, when I decided to go into political science, which is actually when our paths started to meet or to cross, I was a business major and I hated it and I wasn't doing well. And the best advice he ever gave me was, do whatever you want in the world, just be the best at it.
Wow.
Like, you can be a janitor, but like, you know, just be the best janitor in the world is going to be a millionaire, right? So
what a dad.
Yeah, no, it was super unexpected coming from my dad, who was very old school and you know, very academic and so forth and so on. He's a professor at UCLA, right? Like, yeah. And I said, you know, if I want to be the best music attorney, can I be a music attorney? Because I still wanted to tell him. I'm not fully abandoning. Yeah, exactly. Gradual disappointment.
No, but he's so proud of you. He's so proud of you. So there's been rumblings of TikTok being banned, and it made me think how apps like this have like such a big impact on music and what happens if TikTok goes away. And then obviously you just put out a song with Jason Derulo. I think it's like number 2 on Spotify. And I've noticed Jason Derulo has been really getting into TikTok and being with all the influencers on TikTok. What's your take on if TikTok gets banned, what that's going to do to music and just in general what social media is doing? Because it seems like TikTok is literally driving the charts in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is. Look, TikTok's an incredible tool, but we're in an ADD generation, and this is like one of the most proliferated, most used, most downloaded ADD apps that are out there. So it completely caters to discovery generation, music generation. And look, if it gets banned, I don't think it's the worst thing. I mean, I thank TikTok for a lot of the hits, and kind of like an athlete would, I just study how to win, and if that's TikTok now, then that's what it is. But I'm not going to ever stop making hits and developing artists the way that I always have, you know. But if TikTok is the conversation, then I have to be in that conversation. You know what I mean?
That's very inspirational to say that, like, no matter what, you're going to figure out a way to win. So, like, to the business model, how do you win? How do you win in music? How do you make money? How do you become what is it that Ben Maddahi does on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. I'll give you a quick description of what my job is, and then I'll walk you through maybe like a typical week and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Is that helpful?
Yeah, very.
So the job is A&R, Senior VP of A&R for Columbia Records. A&R stands for Artists and Repertoire. So artists, it means signing artists and making their music with them, recording their albums with them in whatever capacity that is. Sometimes it's putting them with songwriters, sometimes it's finding a beat for them, sometimes it's setting up a session for them, sometimes it's just finding the mixer and they've made all the music on their own in their home studio. It's being their creative liaison for the creation of their music, along with discovery of the artist and signing them to the label, including negotiating the deal, liaising with the attorneys, blah, 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 and the rest of the label and so forth. You become that person's creative point person within the label. That's what A&R is. What do I do is I wake up every morning, probably around 7:30, 8. I pray that's the first thing I do. I pray because I've been through some tough times too. And I think that you become a lot more grateful and a lot more humble when things are working, because you know what it was like when things were really bad. Mm-hmm. You know, I went through a very challenging year in 2018 where, I was looking for my next job. I wasn't sure where I was going to go. I had a few offers and I was unsure of what the next move was, but I wasn't employed. I only had my own publishing company, which is great and a great source of income, and my own management company, another great source of income. But, you need that kind of like affiliation with a big company. And my wife had thyroid cancer, and fortunately she's doing better, and she, knock on wood, hasn't had any complications since. But that's a tough place to be, right? So like at that time, to just calm myself down, I was meditating and praying and kind of counting my blessings really every single day. And that was really helpful in giving me perspective and knowing that I just needed to get on the field or on the court every day and just do my best every single day, and something good would come. So not to speed too quickly ahead, but like when you see number 2 on the chart, it's not an accident. It's actually, which will hopefully be number 1 in the next couple of weeks, but is literally a product of me doing the exact same thing, that same process, just refining it every single day for the last 2 years until we got here, Wow. So that was waking up at 7:30, praying, and expressing gratitude for all the things in my life. I thank God for my health, my safety, for guiding me with wisdom, and what's the last thing? And for giving me mental strength to get through the tough times. Because that mental strength is also everything, right? It's like it applies to intermittent fasting, or it applies to tough decisions you need to make in life, and you need to have a strong gut, or it applies to being in the gym and pushing it that little extra bit. It applies to not folding under pressure at work, etc. That mental strength is everything that helps create your reality.
Man, that's very, very, very helpful. I actually got chills a couple times when you were talking about that. Are there any other things that you think would be really helpful for people to hear that you figured out that maybe you didn't know, but you've sort of come to know?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Take a lot of risks while you're young, you know. Even I have regrets. It's just crazy because like my life is really good and I make a living doing exactly what I want. And I'm still like, I'm not a keep up with the Joneses type, but I'm still like,
Right.
oh, if I only did this.
Right.
I think that fear is poison, and it's imaginary. Fear is just the worst.
That's one of the common ones that all successful people figure out a way to move beyond, like the fear and the willingness to take risk.
Well, until you've been in the most scared place of your life and get through it, then you don't then you realize that like everything else is easy compared to that.
Yeah. Any artist that you haven't worked with that you really want to work with?
My entire goal in the music business from the get-go, I swear to God, was to do a song with Puth, and I did that like in my second year in the business. Maybe Jay-Z, to answer your question. I was really close. He had recorded something I did, and then it didn't come out. So
with that being said, you're obviously a super young guy with a huge future ahead. You're not quitting, retiring anytime soon. What is the future? What's your future?
I've given that a lot of thought. Like, number one goal for me is I want to be the number one A&R person in the Sony system. I've said that to my bosses. I've said that to everyone. I'm happy to say that to the music universe, the law universe. Like, that's what my goal is. I just want to be the best. So with that, to have my own little company where I have a publishing company called Unrestricted, and that publishing company has a few very influential clients, one of them being John Cunningham, who produced and wrote and executive produced the last 3 XXXTentacion albums, and has worked with Halsey and Miley Cyrus and Marshmello and just a ton of massive artists, and just to continue building out my little slice of songwriter, producer, management life, to have a bit of equity, and just to keep delivering for Sony. That's what I want to do. Down the road, comedy will be somewhere. I'm always silently prepping for it, always.
And
always.
Yeah, and it'll be with producing. It wouldn't be like you doing your own stand-up, right?
Never, no. I would love to be a part of like writing, any like Judd Apatow type, or dark comedy or something like that, and just financing, producing those things, being a part of the development, writing even. I think that would be, that would be a dream for me. But there's so many similarities in music and comedy.
You never know. We might be able to work on that together.
I'd love to. You're actually the funniest person I know, so it's perfect.
I love you. Okay, so let's go to Deal of the Week. So my Deal of the Week is fruit stands. So for those of you who don't know LA, all over the place, we have these beautiful fruit stands. You can get hot seasoning on them, lemon, lime sprayed all over it. It's what they call the dream. And if you had these fruit stands all over the world, no more wars. It would be peace everywhere. Support the street vendor hustle. Ben, do you have a Deal of the Week, something that you want to recommend to the LawFlip world? It's pretty much anything.
Actually, yes, I do. It's a app called Calendly. Calendly. I recently made some changes and I got rid of my assistant, which I thought was going to be like the biggest nightmare on earth. But there's an app that essentially, pulls from your Google Calendar, and you can just send people a link and be like, here are my available times. And you can just let people pick from your available times.
It's great.
And it's like super, super easy to schedule things that way. And I don't get caught up in the minutia of, having to schedule anything.
Back and forth. What time?
Who cares?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the worst. It's like, pick, bye.
Okay, so let's go to legal tip of the week. So this is sponsored by Smith & Benowitz, a personal injury, employment, and class action law firm. And so my legal tip of the week, Ben Maddahi, is working from home. Your employer needs to pay for any expenses you incur, including certain utilities, internet, phone, computer, all that stuff. So like I said last week, that stuff, it kind of sounds nitpicky, but what happens is employers oftentimes, they take a little bit of advantage of the employee. They take an expense that's really supposed to be a company expense. They transition it to the employee, And over time, it's a slippery slope. They do more and more and more. You are not responsible for taking on the cost of your company. Contact us or another experienced employment law firm to know your rights. So, Ben, here's the legal tip that I want from you. How do music lawyers get it right, and how do music lawyers get it wrong? That's your legal tip of the week to the music lawyers out there.
How do music lawyers get it right, and how do music lawyers get it wrong? Well, I think that in general, it's not just limited to music lawyers. I put lawyers in general in two buckets. You're either a deal maker or a deal breaker, right? You're either somebody who wants to bridge a gap and see something happen because you believe that. And look, there's different types of transactions, right? You know, there's like, if there's a transaction where you're never going to have to see anybody again, you want to be as aggressive as possible, and you can be a deal breaker, right? And you just be like, the other side and get as much as you can, be a savage and get out. But we work in an industry so often that you're signing somebody to a company, to a record label, to a music publishing company, to a management agreement, where you can't afford to be so unbelievably aggressive, because once you get to the other side of that negotiation, you have to work with that person for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to have somewhat of a fluid, you don't want there to be fatigue by the time you start the deal, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all for deal makers, and just don't be a deal breaker.
I love it.
If you're selling off your assets one time, get a deal breaker. Otherwise, be a deal maker.
That is a great legal tip of the week, I must say. So, Ben, first of all, before we go, I want to say it again. We have a new 833 number. It's 1833-LawFlip. I'm going to need you to help create the new jingle for it, Ben. I need some beats.
No problem.
Send them my way. Now, Ben, tell us where people could find you and if they have hits. If people have hits, because they're out there. There are some unsigned people. How do they get the music to you? And how do they get to you if they just want to get your opinion on something, or they want you to be a mentor? And I know you don't have the time to mentor everybody, but if somebody's coming up in the music game or they want to send you music, how do they find you?
Instagram is the best way. It's at ben.maddahi, MADDAHI.
Amazing. Ben, thank you so much.
LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. LawFlip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
Okay, so Ariane, they're asking where they could find us. So for LawFlip, it's at LawFlip and LawFlip.com. For Smith & Benowitz, our law firm, which does personal injury, employment, and class actions, you can find us at Smith Benowitz and SmithBenowitz.com. For the personal stuff, like where you're really going to find the juicy stuff, at Benjy Smith and BenjySmith.com. At Wages Guru and LewisBenowitz.com for Lewis. Oh, so LawFlip is produced, directed, and edited by the young legend Ariane Tabibian. Visual effects and compositions by another young legend, Oren Azad. Intro music provided by Pen Practice. Pen Practice, what is it? Premium instrumentals for upcoming artists by the music industry's top producers. For more info, visit penpracticemusic.com. I had so much fun recording the intro song with my man Hilton Deuce Wright. Looking forward to hearing more and more from Pen Practice. So the LawFlip identity, this hot logo that you're looking at, created by Garrett Whiston and Travis Nagel. Special thank you to Shai and Seth from the Horwitz Marketing Agency. A huge thank you to Aaron and Vanessa from Smith & Benowitz for endlessly dealing with all of our podcast bullshit. And lastly, a huge thank you to our beautiful wives, Julie and Lisa, for supporting our vision, and all the love to all of our four boys combined. Disclaimer, this podcast is made available by Smith & Benowitz for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is only intended to provide general information and opinions about legal and other concepts, and is not intended to be used as a source of legal advice or relied on for legal advice. By listening to this podcast, you understand that no attorney-client relationship is being formed between you and Smith & Benowitz or any of its attorneys. This podcast should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a licensed professional attorney in your state.